Hello, beautiful healing community. It's your girl, Salenna Green, and I am just once again coming to you as just a squirrel on their own healing journey, inviting you to join me, join today's guest as we embark on a new conversation that is once again extremely relevant, not only in my life, but probably in somebody's life listening today. So, we're going to hop right into it. Today, we are talking about parenting through trauma. Now, if you know me in real life or you've been listening to the podcast for a minute now, you may already know this. If this is your first podcast episode, I'm not a parent. So that is not the perspective that I will be taking in this conversation. However, I was parented by mainly one person, but two people who, and I was certainly sired by two people who have experienced a lot of trauma. So I'm kind of coming from what does that look like as a child growing up? What do you witness? What do you not understand until you're an adult, and you reflect, and that whole side of it. And then my beautiful, wonderful guest will be speaking to things as a parent, as she is one. So, y'all, today we're talking about, parenting through trauma. It might be a little heavy, so take care of yourself. Make sure you pause this episode if you need to, come back to it. Hell, skip over it if you need to. But just know that you can come back to it if you do need to skip it for now, because there's always healing. And this is not going to be, like none of the other conversations I have. Is it just going to be, doom, doom, doom? It's always about healing. It's always about how we navigated these situations. And today is no difference. So I am joined by the wonderful Arcadia, which honestly, Black people, she goes by many names. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our wonderful healing community, and then we'll just hop right into the conversation around parenting through trauma.
Again, it's my given name is Shameka Williamson. On social media, most of my social media platforms, I go by Arcadia Honeyseed. I am a mental health worker. I am a mom of two, divorced mom of two, also now engaged. Currently pursuing my master's in social work. What else? Baker, cosplayer when the time and budget permits.
Look, because I was like, if she don't bring up that cosplay and those tea parties, I'm going to need to do it.
Yes, semi-professional event planner when the time and budget permits. I try to plan fun themed events. Usually most of my budget goes to my kids. I just started my new Family Movie Fridays page. There's a lot. I have themed Friday meals. And I've shot myself in the foot because now my children will not accept just pizza and nuggets on Fridays now, because they expect themed dinners every Friday. We have our Family Movie Friday. A lot of folks were asking for just a page where they can find most of my Family Movie Friday menus. So I just got that started last week.
Yes. And I will say that when it comes to parenting, because I'm not a parent, most of what I'm seeing as someone with a background in early childhood education, who's done a lot of research, who has a lot of experience in child care and childhood education, and even has studied a little bit of childhood psychology when I was getting my own community psychology degree. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when it comes to this conversation. And I'm really excited that we're having it. Like I genuinely get a little healing from seeing those Friday movie nights, the family Friday movie night. Girl, I'm gonna get the name down. But either way, I wish I was there. And my inner child really does heal from that, because when sometimes, and not every time, because we're all capable of different things and everyone's different. But there are some parents who their trauma is not allowing that. So when I see a parent who is able to show up in a way that's so intentional for their kiddos, it really does do something for me. And I just need to tell you that since we're having this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Every Friday I get this is better than the last, and a part of me is like, I put more energy to this previous one, but they like it. I love it. I'm happy. I don't even know how I started that transition, but I'm happy that we still have it.
Yes, clapping and giving flowers where they're due, because you do that. Okay,
Thank you.
so when it comes to the parent-child relationship, I want to really pull that out as the first thing that we're talking about when it comes to parenting through trauma. There's a relationship that is instantly affected by the trauma that the parent has experienced, preconception, during the period where whatever partner it is carrying, and then once you have the kid, like, trauma is informing all of that. And so I want to hear a little bit more about your experience and the things that you found in this parent-child relationship and how it's affected. And then, I got a lot to say. So,
I would say ways that it affected me is, I experienced childhood sexual trauma growing up. I recently shared just kind of my experiences. I think at the head front of Cassie just coming out and sharing her story, and I found myself frustrated with, well, she should just want Diddy to go to jail, and that should be justice enough. And that just made me think about, a person going to jail doesn't stop the trauma that the person experiencing sexual trauma has to deal with. Them being in jail does not stop their fear of going out. It doesn't stop, how their body responds to things. It doesn't, it doesn't stop you worrying about if and when it could happen again. And I think for me as a parent, I recognize, like, sometimes my trauma shows up with just going out places. Like, a lot of my friends will say, you can bring the kids, they can come. No, they can't. And it's not so that they're not bad. I think it's just I'm hyper aware all the time, and it's not just watching the children because they stay close, but I feel like it was draining just watching everybody else, seeing who might be watching your children. Sometimes it's my children do not go to a whole lot of places except their father's house or my grandparents' house. Like, they haven't visited any other relatives. And again, I've gone through therapy. I've worked, in behavioral health where I did like counseling with folks, and I always tell people, healing is not a straight line. Um, it's a squiggly line. Sometimes you start here and you start back. Sometimes the line goes here and there. Um, my nephew spent the night one time last summer. My nephew, and I shared this story on TikTok as well. My nephew has never done anything to make me worry that he might do something to my kids. But so just having him there and then having my children sleep in the other room. And I talked to my fiance about it, and I could not sleep that night. And so I had to recognize, your trauma sometimes victimizes other people when they've never done anything to you. Um, so that was a challenge. I think just dating, because you always hear the horror stories of, this step parent doing this. I almost thought I had to pull the car over on my fiance because I always talk to my children about consent, and that's even just that is a challenge. Like, talking about consent, talking about these are your private parts. Nobody's allowed to touch your private parts, and I always try to give that space when I talk to my children about, because I talk to my son and daughter about it, but always just the internal, like, stress or like things that are going on internally. When I talk to them about, you can tell me if anybody ever does this to you and I will believe you, and giving that space to see if there's going to be, well, this person did it, and mentally preparing myself for that, and just thinking about, like, my heart was tightening up when every time I have these conversations, because I always try to talk to him about it. And I think I am happy for having these conversations because these were things that I didn't have growing up.
Yeah.
My kids I have one that'll be 7 in next month, and my daughter's 5. So I try to start those conversations off early, but it's still awkward
Yeah.
having that, and then just the challenges of preparing yourself if they do disclose that. Um,
Yeah, that's actually huge.
my
Disclosure
kids
is huge.
my kids are taking their second trip with their dad and his girlfriend Thursday, and I'm trying to mentally prepare myself that they're not in my care. And
Yeah.
their father, we're not together, but I know that he will do his best to protect his kids. And me and his girlfriend, we the homies. Like, we
Hmm.
talk on Instagram every day. So I know that she loves them and will protect them too, but it's still just that internal fear that something can happen. And
Yeah.
I can't control that because I'm not there.
Yeah, no, that's real. I experienced a lot of that. My mom was very explicit about why we weren't going to sleepovers, why we weren't going over to spend the night at this person or that person's house, even if they were a close family friend, even if they were, you know what I mean? And it was never, oh, this person's gonna, it was like anyone could. And I just don't know. And so as a kid, I definitely remember some frustration, and I actually remember losing friends because, they're all going to the sleepovers every other weekend and I can't go. And that's all this bounding time that's happening. But, looking back, I have no regrets of the sleepovers that I didn't get to go to. I,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not staying up at night about that. I'm not mourning those third grade friendships. Like, no, none of that. And I also definitely remember um kind of the hypervigilance that my mom had. I did internalize it after a while. And it didn't stop me from still experiencing those things.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of her. So that was great. There was, she was a safe space for me in that way. I did believe she would believe me if I told her, X, Y, and Z, but I still didn't. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that in my particular case, because of all the trauma that I was already around, all of the trauma that I was aware of, it was almost like normalized to me.
Yeah.
It was almost like expected that it would eventually happen because of how often it happened to other people, and
Yeah.
how there's the statistics about it that you hear or you read online, and then there's the actual living statistics of the people you've talked to, the conversations you've heard, the fact that it's all of your mom's friends, not just your mom. So
Yeah.
I'm like, so her and all of her friends, like, that's not a coincidence. And so it did make me almost expect this kind of thing to happen, this trauma to happen, because I was like, well, this kind of trauma is most likely to happen to me. There are other traumas that are very much not as likely to happen to me.
I understand when yeah.
Yeah,
It's really disheartening that you have to expect that.
it really, really is. And that's why I love the conversations that you're having with your kiddos, because when people are parenting from a place of trauma, we can go to extremes, or doing anything from a place of trauma when we're trying to avoid trauma. We're trying to negate the effects of trauma. And so we can go to extreme lengths for that. But I love the lengths of, you can tell me. We don't have to keep secrets. I'll
Yeah.
believe you.
That definitely,
That's
yeah.
extreme.
Yeah, and we talk about, even if they tell you don't tell, still tell me anyway.
Hmm.
Um, I thought early in the, like, dating stages when my fiance was introduced to my kids, and we talked about
Hmm.
trust, and we talked about, who are people you can trust. And I asked my daughter, do you trust, my fiance? No. And so I'm like, am I about to have to beat his ass? Like, I thought I was going to have to attack. And I
She's
was
like, that's
like,
just on GP.
no, I said, well, why don't you trust him? Well, he tells too many jokes and he farts too much. And I'm like, girl, you was about to have me attack this man in this car. We were all about to crash.
No, actually, though. And that's why the questions are very important. And I also like what you're saying about like identifying, private parts. And another part for me, as an early childhood educator, and because of some of the horror stories I've heard, it's like naming body parts, what they actually are as well. So that was something that I always taught to my kiddos when I was teaching and caretaking, is that it can't be my cookies and my
Yeah.
doodly dads, because no one knows what that means, and that could be anything. So if someone's
It's a,
touching your cookie, you know
what does that mean?
yeah, I'm like, don't touch my cookie, I gotta eat that, right? Because I'm just thinking a cookie and I don't want to eat a
Hmm.
cookie that has somebody's hands on it.
So
And
yeah,
then
yeah, just even
that deep.
just like saying the word was like awkward.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we talk about it, but it's definitely been an awkward conversation. But um, I try to give my kids space to speak their mind, how they're feeling. I'm proud that they do. They will tell me when they're disappointed. Sometimes it's just disappointed because I'm making them clean up.
Yes.
So I have to like, I know why I'm doing this, but today I wish you wouldn't.
Mm. Teaching the kiddos that emotional intelligence, and then they come
Yeah.
back with it and you're like, wait,
And
this is an
yeah,
unopportune moment.
I meant for the future use, not when it's time for you to clean up your toys.
Absolutely. I want to transition a little bit into the part where, as a parent, because I'm thinking back on my parents and maybe the parent that I want to be one day, and with the traumas that we experience, like, I think it can be hard to, in some cases, not make that like our identity. You know, there's, people will say like, oh, you're making anime your identity, or you're making being goth your identity, but sometimes people do make their trauma or the trauma that they experience their identity. And it can seep into parenthood in ways that I have observed in close relationships. I wouldn't necessarily, oh, actually, upon reflection, maybe no shade, parents, but to a certain extent, like, the trauma that your parents experienced, it's definitely about to shape your childhood. Like, there was no way around me not knowing why I was being parented the way that I was being parented, because my parents' childhood trauma was always being told to me. It was routinely brought up as a reason, as a justification, as whatever it is. And I, even now, to a certain extent, as an adult, I have to tease out, like, who are my parents outside of those things that they told me they experienced as a child that are still with them when they're parenting me. Like, who were they before that, outside of it, in their younger days, before they had kids? My mom had my oldest brother when she was 14. There was not a
Wow.
lot of time. She was a kid. That's how I know now. She was literally
Mm,
just a kid. And then she was a mom. And
wow.
that shit is crazy. And I could not imagine it.
I would say I try to identify things that I would enjoy without kids. Just thinking about your mom, like I didn't have kids young, but I got married like just turning 20. But I met my first husband when I just turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went straight from being a daughter to being a wife. Throughout that marriage, I think there was trauma in that marriage, just experiencing, chronic cheating towards the end, verbal, physical abuse. Um, but I did not have an identity outside of just being this person's wife. And
Mm-hmm.
they were in the military, so I was just a military spouse. Um, so I honestly didn't start finding my identity until I was in my 30s. I didn't have my first apartment until I was 30 something. And so even though I have children now, I try to find, I have friends that don't have children because I don't just want to be a mom and just have mom friends. I think it's important to have like a good balance of friends. And my friends love my kids. They always say, you can bring the kids. And I say, no, I can't. Because they get enough of me. I need to just have an identity outside of myself. Um, so it's finding those things that bring you joy, even when you don't have kids. Finding ways to be creative. And so when time permits, I haven't taken much time for it, but painting, I think with my kids, having those family movie Fridays gives me an opportunity to be creative as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when the budget permits, I enjoy cosplaying, and those are parts of me that's outside of just being a mom. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of mothers have, is that you just focus on being a mom. You don't focus on things that bring you happiness, that bring you joy. And then there's challenges when, or you focus on just being a wife, and then when those things are no longer there, you have to rebuild yourself and find out who you are. Like, what are the things that make just you happy without being contingent on making somebody else happy?
Mm. That's so true. I didn't even know, like, we were around the same age. I was 21 when I got married.
Oh, wow.
So definitely around the same age. I feel like I've done so much growing in my marriage that was individual growth. I say I had to start my self-love journey as a married person because I got married so young. And then
Wow.
like I have a psychology degree, so I have a lot of theories about why that is. But I even thought about that, like why, I had to acknowledge at a certain point I was raised to be a wife. And so I did that. And then
Wow.
I had to be like, okay, so here I am around at the time 25 years old. I was in my marriage for a few years and I was like, wait, like, hold on. So yes, I'm a wife, but like, who am I? Who am I actually? And why am I just now
Yeah.
thinking about this? It's crazy how that happens. But you know what? The same thing happened kind of to my mom. Once all her kids were 18, we had to keep reminding her, you don't have any more kids. Like you can do
Yeah.
whatever you want now. And she had spent so much time being a mom. I really think it took her a few years to like
Just
actually
find who
get
she
in her,
was.
yeah, and like start doing the things she wanted to do. Um, and I remember, upon reflection, these different times of knowing what interests my parents had. Like I had some ideas of who they were outside of this particular constraint of being a parent, trying to protect me from these certain things that they had experienced or come across when they were kids, or when, I mean, I'm gonna say it now, when they was kids with kids, because I'm 31, so I can say that now. and, and there's a lot that comes with it. I can't deny that the trauma that my mom was parenting me through, that my dad, when he was around when I was a very young kid, and then what they were trying to do, it was coming from a place of love filtered through trauma.
Yeah. And I think that's the challenge so many of our like parents and grandparents have. And just, you really don't stop to think about how much of that has passed down. And so it's like you have compounded trauma that's sometimes not even your trauma, that you have to filter through. And then try
Yeah,
to make sure that you're not at, adding that to your children's life.
yeah, I'm definitely trying to make sure I'm in a place where I feel like at least I can do that before I start trying to pursue having some kids or, parenting anyone, because we know I ain't birthing nobody. But, just being a parent, fostering or, adopting.
Yeah,
That's my idea of parenthood looks like me adopting some kiddos one day.
it's definitely needed. So
Yeah. And,
I support any parenting choice you choose, whether that's to not have any at all. So
I mean, look,
um
it'd be mostly there, but we'll see. But I really want to talk about this generational trauma that we keep on hinting at, because what we're saying here, y'all, is what hurts the parent hurts the child. Okay, what hurts the parent before that child is ever thought of or conceived is going to hurt that child potentially. Or I think it is. I think because even knowing that my mom and even my dad, like I've been on this whole healing the father wound journey recently and healing the mother wound journey. And healing that father wound is a little harder, I will say.
yeah.
But when it comes to it, I'm able to do it because they faced a lot of harm. And it makes me feel very, very hurt to imagine them being hurt as kids, to imagine who I was. I was a kid in the past. So even if I don't know what my parents were as a kid, I know what it feels like to be a kid. And I knew what it felt like to be hurt or to feel like the adults around me weren't available to me. And I knew that that was their experience. I knew that they grew up feeling not protected. They grew up feeling not heard. They grew up feeling alone at times. And that hurts me to think that not only did they feel that as small children, but they went through life without ever really having time to stop and heal these wounds or to address them or to experience any real reprieve, because then it's parenting and then it's combating the system or
You have to deal with racism.
dealing with racism that is being perpetrated against your kids. So I remember hearing my mom on the phone crying to her friends, talking about how she had to take off work this time and that time to go up to the school and they're being racist, and she literally knows it and she's reading the manuals and she knows that they're not following their own procedure and how they're supposed to be handling these things. That is weathering. That was emotional trauma that she was experiencing and I was witnessing as her child.
Mm.
What hurts the parent hurts the child.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about just experiencing racism. So my son had to do, for Black History Month, you dress up as your assigned character and you do like a report on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I had never. I know eventually one day I would have to have the talk about racism and just things that you try to do as an African American child to navigate this world. But I never really talked about racism. But he was assigned Colin Kaepernick. I thought we were making good progress. He had memorized his talking points. We had the costume. I ordered the book, and it just dawned on him that wait, he's a real person. I was like, what do we? What? What do you mean? What have we been doing this whole time? So then I had to explain to them what oppression was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to show them, actual lynchings and things, but we
Mm-hmm.
watched. I don't know if you grew up remembering the cartoon. Was it Whitewashed on HBO about the little girl whose face got spray painted?
Yeah, no, I
It was.
never saw that.
Oh, it was an
I may
old
have to look
HBO.
that up. You said
I
it's called Whitewashed?
Whitewash.
Okay.
But yeah, the children in that movie had experienced racism, and my kids had asked me, can that happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it broke my heart because I can't even tell them like it could.
Yeah.
Um, it possibly could. I can. These are the things that I will do to protect you if it does happen. But and I was talking to my parents about it, and my dad just broke down his. He talked about his experiences with racism about because my dad started school when segregation had ended, so
Yeah.
he was one of the students that actually went to the school, and he was talking about people trying to flip his bus over with tractors as a kid.
That's crazy.
And who knows what his parents went through. So,
Yeah.
um, I think that has been exhausting trying to you just parent through my own stuff and then having to try to make sure that they don't experience racism, but educating them on racism, but also this is what you got to do when it happens. Um, and I think that's been very taxing when you see what's going on today.
Whew.
And it's like, there's no point in time where I, as a parent, can say, yes, these horrible things happened back in the day, but on this date it actually stopped
Mm-hmm.
because it hasn't stopped. And that has been a challenge and taxing for me as a mom.
Yeah, that one is hard for sure. I remember being a kid, having things explained to me, and then still having to fight internalizing the messages that I'm receiving at school and in other places, because it feels like you're getting mixed signals as a kid, you know.
Yeah,
Because we're just these kids are just these little sponges. They're just taking it in, and they might not even be consciously doing so, but their brain is categorizing the information that they're getting, organizing it, putting it into nice little files that they can pull out later if it becomes relevant. And when you are a Black kid navigating this oppressive system that is very much built on pretense. So even while everyone's pretending that it's all equal and pretending that no one would ever do anything towards you just because of your race, that's ridiculous. Why would you even think that? And
yeah,
then you're also growing up in your culture, which if you are African American, our culture has a touch of realness to it. Okay, we gonna keep it real, and we have
yeah.
several phrases for how in which we tell the truth, keep it real, keep it a buck, right? I can go on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are in the middle of those two kind of conflicting cultures, where one wants to tell the truth and the other one wants to
Save this
perpetuate
for
a
when the
narrative,
moment comes up. Like,
yeah. Then you're a
let's
kid
keep,
trying to figure
yeah,
out who to believe. And the people who are, tired and having navigated this and we cutting through the bullshit are the ones that may not seem as nice as the ones who are smiling at you and telling you everything is okay. And wouldn't it be so much better to just believe that everything is okay and no one's going to be racist towards me? And it
yeah.
wasn't because they're racist, it was because of X, Y, and Z. It would be so much easier to believe that. And I would feel less stressed. I'd be like, oh, thank God all that is over and I ain't living during that time. Ah. But we
Yeah,
don't get to do that. We can't. Our lives depend on it.
yeah. So, yeah, just as an African American mom, there's no buying like any pretend guns.
Yeah.
I think I do try to even in public. I think that's me as an African American parent. There's always you can't behave this way because of these people watching, and I try to not do that with my children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, it's one of those speak your mind, don't be afraid to ask questions, and I think that's been a point. It was a point of contention for my dad had a hard time adjusting with that, but I think just being consistent with it, even my dad recognizes the importance of allowing children space to speak their mind.
Yeah.
'Cause he's even commended, how well, they communicate their feelings. Because my parents grew up in the you don't question your parents, like you don't talk
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Me and my dad have butted heads a couple of times because of it, but I think just being consistent and just constantly educating, like this is why we do this.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
it's paid off.
And I feel like we're already getting to it a little bit, but this is the healing, right? This is the healing that comes with, acknowledging that trauma, because what you don't acknowledge, you are never going to change. That's why we must call out racism. We have to say the truth about what is happening, or else we will always be in pretend land, pretending that racism is done, pretending that we're safe here, pretend until we call out the truth and deal with it. And then we
Yeah,
can truly make it what we want it to be. And that is, the healing that comes with this, the healing that comes with acknowledging that Black kids, they don't need to be held to different standards than other kids. Black kids get to be kids too,
Yeah,
you know?
it's I do my yeah, it's, you do not do always do your best, and whenever my children are like showing me any assignments or schoolwork, um do you feel like you did your best? And if they say yes, then that's what we accept. And my daughter doesn't have a whole lot of schoolwork. She just finished pre-K. We're getting ready for kindergarten now, but we talk about she's in ballet. So I try to keep them in extracurricular activities. So my son's in Taekwondo. Whenever he has his testing days, it's, do you feel like you did your best? And if you say yes, then okay, cool. That's what we accept.
Yes, that
Um,
is beautiful. And I will say that is one thing that my mom did always do too. She taught me to do my best and to trust that my best is good enough. And that is that's healing from trauma. To accept that and to pass that down is really a beautiful thing, because this society loves to hold Black people to special and higher standards than everyone else. And that's a trauma that we passed down for a long time. There's still the saying, do or work twice as hard for half the acknowledgement. I will never accept that. I will never
yeah,
perpetuate that. I'm
I
simply
do not.
going
Yeah,
to. In fact, I'm going to do less work, and everything that I want is coming to me because it wants me more. And that is what I accept for Black people. And that is what I accept for my own life. Some of these traumas that come through, which for our community, African American community, so a lot of it does come from that history of enslavement and the things that were traumatized into our people as a collective. We have this um, understanding of collective trauma from the COVID-19 pandemic,
yes,
right? Collective traumas happen when large groups of people experience a trauma together. And that is what happened during the transatlantic slave trade. We all experienced this trauma together, and then it was passed down for generations with the Jim Crow, with civil rights movement, and us having to do all that fighting. And then all of our, the communities that were bombed, the leaders in our community who were assassinated during that time. This is all very fresh and on our collective consciousness as a people. So the trauma that we have to call out, acknowledge, heal from together, it's deep. And it does affect the relationships that we have with our parents or with our kids if we have them.
yeah. I would on my like healing journey as parenting. I think some of the most exhausting, well rewarded, but so is having to parent your parents as you parent your children has been very has been one of the draining things. But again, just like me and my dad butted heads several times, but I feel like I had the patience because I've also worked with children, working in childcare,
Mm,
working in child welfare. It's just being consistent and having the patience, like it is paid off. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I think me and my dad used to butt heads because I don't spank. I don't believe in spanking. I don't believe in teaching violence to teach a lesson, because what am I teaching you? Like, I don't believe, like, I feel like you're setting your children, especially daughters, up for being in a DV relationship, because it's, well, I'm
Mm,
hitting you, I'm hurting you, I'm hitting you because I love you.
right.
And a person that loves you should not be putting your hands on you. So
Look,
I
and
don't do the spanking.
whew, it's a lot because it actually, people will be resistant to that thought. Like, no, my parent loved me. My parent was doing the best for me. They would have never done that. Baby,
And
your
grab
parent
my
was doing
charger
the
real
best that
quick.
they knew to do for you. Your parent did the best that they knew to do for you at that time. And it may or may not have been enough. And that's okay. Like, that was my struggle with it, because I had to acknowledge, like, no, when she knew better, she did better. We didn't get spankings our whole life because she went to college and
Yeah.
she actually started learning some different things. And once she had other tools to use, she started using them. It was that simple. And I think that there's, like, this shame and this all these other judgments that we want to bring up when it's just change the behavior, right? We don't need to apply all this. We know something new. Let's do something new. And then you don't need to beat yourself up, right? Because
Yeah.
when we're talking about parenting through trauma, something that's coming to me right now is reparenting yourself is right. Like I'm reparenting myself through trauma because I'm having to reprogram myself, speak gently to myself, remind myself it's okay to make a mistake. Very small things that you would, if you have a background in early child education, these are things that you're telling to young children because we have to build up the psyche of a child. You have to
Of
build
course.
them up to know what to do when they make a mistake, what to do when they do
It's
something.
okay to apologize. And that's
Yeah.
definitely been lessons that I'm teaching my children and teaching myself is that, sometimes your best looks different on different days. It's okay to make mistakes.
Hmm.
It's okay to not be happy all the time. Sometimes my children will ask, are you feeling happy today? Today I just feel tired. And they'll say, why I feel upset today. And that's okay. You don't have to
Yeah.
be happy 24/7.
Yep. And the
So
other
I
thing is
have
like,
grouchy days too.
yes. Oh, and just knowing that you can honor your feeling and expect it to pass. Because a lot of the time, I didn't see people processing emotions. So I didn't know how to handle anger. I didn't really know how to handle sadness, really. And so when it came to emotions that I deemed to be unfavorable, I was just like, all right, I'm just not going to feel that anymore. And so then I shut down parts of my emotional capacity for years,
And I
literal
think that's
years.
something that I think that's something us as Black women don't get that space to do.
Mm-hmm.
And our sons, our Black boys, aren't allowed to just show emotions. And so I definitely try to create that space for them to talk about it. Again, I'm grateful they're talking about it, but sometimes I wish that skill was for future use. Cause yeah, they've told me that they've been disappointed in me, made them clean, and I have to say, well, I understand, I respect your feelings, but you still gonna clean up. You
Yeah.
still gonna clean your mess. 'Cause I'm not doing it. Um,
Yes. It's all like, it can become actually a very fun and beautiful thing when we're able to move with emotional intelligence, because not only are we able to honor where someone is and not feel like we have to change it or we have to fix it or we have to control it, we can just acknowledge it, and also honor what that bottom line is, which, in that case is you got to clean up after
you still
yourself.
gonna clean your mess.
Yeah,
They'll
that's an
clean
adult
up and
skill.
then they need alone time. Thank you, Lord. Please take it. I honor that.
My niece, she's like, she would need a hug because this was just all a lot, all this cleaning. And so,
Yeah,
but I
I'll
love
ask
it.
them, well, what do you need right now? Do you need a hug? Do you need a kiss? Do you need
Hmm.
some alone time? Do you need a minute to snuggle? And they select their options. So
And think of how many of us had to learn how to do that as an adult. Like they're going to be so much more well-rounded in their relationships because there's people, you ask them what they need, they don't know, they just mad.
or
Or
they just don't even know how to talk about what they're feeling.
ooh, that's the part, like where people just shut down. You ain't getting nothing out of them because they don't know. They don't know how to even access it. And so this is this intelligence that you're giving to them that, again, it just warms my soul to hear it, and I'm so happy about it. Um
I'm very proud of them because I think they articulate their feelings well. But yeah, I'm sometimes like, I don't give a damn. You still gonna clean up?
they had some complaints for management
Yeah,
every
they
once in a
have
while.
complaints. Um, they will tell grandpa about it, and okay, and you still gonna clean up. I'm not doing it. Or there we have chores now, so like
Mhm.
you get paid to do these things, but we're learning about money management. These are things I'm gonna deduct. If I gotta clean up your mess, I'm gonna deduct some money from you.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Wonderful skills that you can teach to a kid, teaching them responsibility, teaching them money management, all of the things, communication, emotional intelligence, responsibility, all without beatings, all without yelling, right? Because those are things that we're taught in trauma, but those aren't actually required for us to learn. We don't need to be hit to
you
understand
know, it's
something. We don't need to be yelled at to understand anything or learn. We can learn through joy, celebration, healing, laughter. Show yourself
yeah,
that.
just
Reparent
having
yourself if you
communication.
need. Yes.
I wish they were here today. They're at their dad's for this week. So, but
Oh, I love to hear it. Is there anything, because I know you have given us a lot today and I have learned so much. I am very appreciative. Is there any last thing that you want to leave the people with, or something you feel like we haven't touched on that needs to be said around this?
um, I think one of the challenges I went through with navigating trauma and just you know navigating the dating scene as a mom is that I decided that I wasn't going to date again because I didn't want to risk my children going through this. But then I also recognize how it's important for my children to see me love myself. But if I want them to be able to navigate, and I was also scared because I had divorced their father, so that was my second
Mm.
marriage. I was worried about um, you know is this going to traumatize them because children going through divorce, that's ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. But I was worried about them learning about navigating healthy relationships, and my
Mhm.
fear was that they might end up in a horrible relationship. But I also recognized that I had to teach them how to. Well, I was scared about, well, what if this relationship does not work out? Is that
Mhm.
going to be traumatizing? But I had to ask myself, how will my children know how to recognize a healthy relationship, and how will they know how to navigate when a relationship if does what to do if that relationship doesn't work out if I don't model
Yes.
that for them.
Mhm.
So we of course had talks about consent. We talked about body safety and all that, and so I decided to put myself out there. um, and again, I'm getting married in October. Things are great. They love him. Um, but I would say don't let fear of relationship failing keep you from finding a happy relationship. I think it's important for you to teach your children how to be in a healthy relationship, how to show
Mm.
up for yourself in a healthy relationship, and it's important to show them what to do if it's time for that relationship to end.
Ooh.
um, let them see you sad if it doesn't work out. Let them know that, yeah, you can be sad, but you can still end up being happy again, even if it's just with yourself.
Mm.
um what else? I One of my biggest challenges is struggling with perfection. I don't
Ooh,
know if, like, how much you talk about zodiacs on here, but I'm a Virgo.
a
uh,
lot.
I'm a Virgo, and so that is a huge struggle for me. um don't focus on being perfect. And you're doing your best looks different on different days. And again, as you are navigating healing, just recognize that healing is not linear, and so some days you're going to be more healed than others. And it's a never ending thing.
Mm.
I think that's
So
all I can think
real
of.
and so much good in what you just said. Like, wow. One of the things that me and my husband talk a lot about is how we didn't really have anyone model all of that you just said. No one modeled healthy relationships. They never really told us this is how you leave one. This is how you take care of yourself. Like we were in here like, are we doing this right? Like, So that is so huge. And modeling behavior is absolutely mandatory. These kids are not going to do what you say as much as they are going to do what you do. And that's real.
Yes.
I'm a little nerd. I read all day long. I'm also a Virgo. So I'm feeling like, yeah, this will,
Yes.
yeah. And so I read a lot. I remember seeing my mom read. I love jazz music. She was always playing it that was her music that she would listen to on the norm. So in psychology, even I remember reading when I was a kiddo in developmental psychology, not when I was a kid. Okay, well, when I was in college, which apparently I was now in college as a kid. Back in the day when I was in college, I remember reading about how, 40% of a child's personality comes from their parents. 40%.
Wow.
It's not half of it, but it's dang near half. And that is a lot. So the behavior that we model around kids, not even only if you're their parent, but if you're their predominant caretaker, these are things you need to worry about or, be intentional towards, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's huge. Thank you for that last piece. For me, what would my last thing to say on this be? Parenting through trauma, we all out here doing our best. I'm
Give yourself
not going to
grace.
tell you what to do. Do your best. I believe in you. That's my last word on that. Now, where can folks find you on social media to pay you, to see some inspiration for what a good tea party should look like?
Most of it's Arcadia Honeyseed on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and then my Family Movie Fridays with Arcadia is my other Facebook and TikTok page. I tried Lemonade, I couldn't figure it out. I'm at that stage where I can say at my old age, I don't got time for all this technology.
Look, girl,
I ain't got time to
Lemonade,
figure it out.
Threads,
I
all
ain't got
these
time.
extra things. Can't
Yes,
do the spin-off. I'm the spin-off social media. Come on. They gotta give me a break.
yeah. So it's Arcadia Honeyseed on everything, and then Family Movie Fridays with Arcadia.
Yes. Thank you so, so much for this amazing conversation today. Y'all, I am just processing so much. I feel like I'm still taking so much in from everything that I heard. I will say, what feels authentic to say in this moment is that you inspire me as a parent.
Thank you.
If I was going to be a parent, I would want to be one who is very intentional about their children. And so I see that and I commend you. Other than that, y'all, I'm Salenna Green. This has been another episode of the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. I hope truly that this episode touched somebody out there as much as it touched me, because y'all, I'm in my feels right now and I'm so grateful and I'm so happy. So if you see me around Seattle, say hi. Make sure you follow me on social media at Hot Girls Healing Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. I will see you out there, y'all. We healing in community, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Since I know you're tired, since I know you're stressed, you were always favored and you were always blessed. It's all about that. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. We better day by day. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. And it goes